something is right or wrong. For example, we can recall hearing that the N-word was used by those who fell victim to preconceived notions or prejudice within their families that can only be taught to an individual at a young age, exposing just how vulnerable their families truly are by allowing strangers to manipulate their minds with a set of beliefs that have never been proven or even questioned for that matter. So we can easily determine that the N-word should not be used as a means to call upon each other in a positive sense, especially when it originated from a word that was used in a negative sense, deriving from the word niggard, that means an extremely stingy person. But then over the years, we somehow allowed it to be adopted still. Also, our people were historically called Indians, but not by each other during the earliest days.
This man stood against everybody. Reverse by itself on his channels. He stood against everybody. Against the beliefs of everybody. But I want to just show you this part.
American history. How are we going to get rid of racism and stop talking about it? I'm going to stop calling you a white man. Yep. And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man. A black man. A black man. A black man.
Political correctness stands as an idea or concept that forces public opinion to be prejudicially generalized, which mentally alters natural human perceptions and beliefs, dangerously influencing the beginning, the climax, and the conclusions of the public's everyday life. Obviously, this type of discussion is needed and long overdue, and it also gets a lot deeper when you critically think about it for a while, especially when you're the type that's surfing for solutions to the problems that you see surrounding you versus focusing on what's taking place right in front of you. For example, each generation arises a new set of movements, wars, riots, and even the creation of bills or laws, just to name a few things. And it wouldn't be hard to find that there are particular people that have been chosen or hired to be utilized as symbols or public figures whose duty is to influence public acceptance of well-decorated misinformation by way of fear-mongering distractions that are filled with tons of contradictions. These contradictions can be easily spotted by the utilitarian methods of critical thinking, researching, and by simply questioning everything well beyond the commonly known morals of a story told to you. The internet was given to us here in America during the 1980s. But really think about that now, because since the internet came into existence during the 1980s, then the same thing applies to its information also, right?
Right? Somebody had to input that information in there.
During my earliest videos back in the year 2016, I warned everyone about the nonprofit organization called Black Lives Matter. This was at a time where people did not pay any attention to its founders, co-founders, financial aids, and even its overall agendas and guiding principles. On the original Black Lives Matter website, before it was just recently changed, I pointed out how you were able to click on a tab labeled Guiding Principles, which would then take you to another page filled with square-shaped black and yellow colored sub-tabs, in which one of these tabs labeled Black Families stood out to me the most. By clicking on this tab, it gave a statement saying, quote, "We are committed to making our spaces family friendly and enable parents to fully participate with their children. We are committed to dismantling the patriarchal practice that requires mothers to work double shifts, that require them to mother in private, even as they participate in justice work." End quote. Did you notice that there was no mention of a father, nor of a heterosexual male, for that matter?
Yeah, I'm a heterosexual male taking care of his kids. But you got a whole goddamn sector of chumps
And that's even throughout this entire original Black Lives Matter website. And did you also notice the avatar associated with this tab? 2 children figures and 1 adult figure equals a so-called black family? Are they promoting empowerment or complete separation here? And then it gets a lot deeper.
I'm not no Black Lives Matter supporter.
You're not?
No, absolutely.
Why not?
Because it's not our movement. This is a movement that was given to us by, George Soros and his fucking boys, because they saw how things were going and they didn't want it to go back to the 60s to where we start having our own organic movements. That was a big fucking problem for them. So let's give the people a movement that we can control. We'll provide them the leaders and all of this type of shit. That's what Black Lives Matter is. Look at the leaders of Black Lives Matter.
Are there leaders of Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Who?
Look at these lesbian women who are trying to incorporate their concerns into Black people's concerns. Go to the website, look it up. Google George Soros and Black Lives Matter, see what comes up.
Let's look it up.
Okay. And, y'all out there, George Soros is a fucking multi-billionaire down with, some of the 12 richest people in the fucking
He raised
world.
$100 million.
Yep.
For Black Lives Matter Coalition. The funding comes in addition to more than.
and they ran off with the money. They ran off with the money.
$33 million in grants from top Democratic Party donor George Soros.
That's about, let us give you a movement that we can control, use certain symbolism from the original civil rights movement, like the black, red, black, and green, all these different symbols. We're going to incorporate that, but only it's going to be a movement that we control. We decide what the messages are. We decide what the slogans are. What happened to no justice, no peace, and, no peace, no justice. Now it's hands up, don't shoot, fucking I can't breathe, and all these negative affirmations.
And he's absolutely correct. The universe, ancestors, spirits, or God, which one you want to use, listens to what you say out your mouth and how you feel inside. You are the dictator in that sense, not the creator, the dictator. So if you let your words and your actions meet, then it becomes your reality. And that can either be good or bad based upon how you decide what the outcome would be from the very beginning. Before we were introduced to the 3 so-called co-founders of the Black Lives Matter organization,
all sisters. Bang. Shout out to Exit Car. Bingo.
We saw a guy named DeRay McKesson being constantly labeled as the leader of the Black Lives Matter movement. In June of 2016, DeRay's cell phone was hacked by the cyber activist group known as Anonymous, and they publicly posted all of DeRay's private Twitter conversations with Jonetta Elzie, another protest organizer, about their plans to.
So you see why I don't put people's shit up here because I'm putting it up here. I'm fucking retaliating because you motherfuckers is putting my name in shit that I don't want to be involved with. I said I don't know nothing. That's the fuck I mean. I don't know nothing. Some shit ain't my business. I just want to be a dad. Be a father. Y'all fucking getting in the middle of me being a father and trying to turn me against my family, trying to turn me against my city. I will burn this bitch up.
Literally disrupt then presidential candidate Donald Trump's campaign rallies to cause a stir that will bring about martial law, causing Barack Obama to stay in office as president for a third term.
Well, I wouldn't have mind that part. I didn't give a fuck who. I don't care who the president is. I still gotta salute him.
In a private direct message, Jonetta asked DeRay, quote, "Have you spoken with Miss Lynch recently about the plan for the summer and fall leading up to the elections?" And DeRay responded by saying, quote, "We spoke 2 weeks and they want us to start really pushing how racist Trump is now, instead of waiting so the others can start getting the protesters ready to shut both conventions down." And then he goes on to say, "We have to make sure that we use our voices to keep people disrupting Trump all summer and through the fall so martial can be declared." End quote. The lady that they were referring to as their contact was the U.S. Attorney General at that time, Loretta Lynch of the Democratic.
Now, look at Barack Obama. He got on gray. Now, I don't know when this picture was taken, but you see Barack Obama with a black tie on.
Party.
I had my phone hacked, so I'm on a panel and I have 2 phones. And one phone is like, please activate your phone. And I'm like, I've never seen that before. Like, please activate. So I turn it off, turn it back on. And what it came out to is that if you have Verizon, the last 4 digits of your social is your PIN for your Verizon account. So somebody hacked, got my social. They called, they changed my SIM card over the phone, which I didn't know you could do. And then they reset all my passwords so that the like code to go back into your account goes to a device they can control. And then it takes me like all day to get back in my phone. You know, it's just like, it's a nightmare.
Isn't it quite odd? Out of all of the public interviews that DeRay McKesson and Loretta Lynch have participated in, between the time of his phone being hacked and beyond, that not one time was either of them asked about these leaked messages? And speaking of the Democratic Party,
And moreover, you should have looked up who Barack Obama is married to. And what I tell you about my family. So I don't talk about certain shit because it's family business. So when motherfuckers looking people up, you ought to be fucking worried about you looking up the wrong person. Somebody that want to stay anonymous. Yeah, I'm down here and right down here with y'all. And I love my people. But y'all, we are worst fucking enemies. You think you be doing something, you don't be doing shit. You ain't ready to get out on that street and get it. My daughter went out there on the expressway to stop traffic for Black Lives Matter, and I found it in her car. I told her, don't you ever get out there and do that shit again. You don't even know what that shit is about.
Did you know that the KKK was a political creation of the Democrats? Oh, and here's another thing I wanted to point out. According to the History Channel, quote, the KKK engaged in terrorist raids against African Americans and white Republicans at night, employing intimidation, destruction of property, assault, and murder to achieve its aims and influence upcoming elections. End quote. Now, doesn't that sound all too familiar? Fast forward to today. When you log on to the newly updated Black Lives Matter website, there is a tab that's highlighted blue and labeled Donate. And if you were to click on this tab, it brings up a totally separate website called Act Blue, which is a nonprofit 501c3 funding pool created only by the Democrats, in which this website says that it's only for, quote, Democratic candidates up and down the ballot, progressive organizations, and nonprofits, end quote. As of today, DeRay McKesson.
So how the fuck y'all hack my computer? Or, no, not how. I don't even give a fuck. You shouldn't have. Listening to some bitch. Y'all hacked the wrong computer. The wrong Niji. The wrong indigenous American. I don't identify with all that black I'm proud shit. I ain't with that shit. I'm for my people. I just told y'all seen the first thing when they came in. I started talking about it. We went on 35 and I looked right down there to see what tribes was down there.
McKesson is no longer affiliating himself with the Black Lives Matter organization. In this 2018 interview, listen closely to what he details without name dropping as he responds to a popular question concerning the mystery of how he is supported financially.
This issue about money, comes up often and people think I'm sponsored by Patagonia. I'm not, I'm a customer.
The blue Patagonia vest is definitely controversial. We'll get to that later on the program.
People think I'm sponsored by McDonald's, by Spotify. I don't take money to tweet. And, the reality is that the group of people that I'm closest to, we've raised $140,000 in 4 years, which is not a lot of money, especially in the nonprofit community.
Now,
In the book, I actually talk about like I name a lot of people that like you don't know, but if not for them, there would be no movement, because if not for Ferguson and
So I'm something wrong with me because I do care, but once you cross me, I don't care anymore. So I'm gonna use you for intelligence against you want to go sit with my enemy. I'm gonna use you for intelligence to get information about my enemy. See, I'm telling you, I ain't never had no fucking beefs until I met this motherfucking Ratchet TV. And I told him, I warned him, don't ever try to trick me again. And he tried to trick me again. So, y'all know the rest.
St. Louis, like that created the space. So I'm sensitive to that, and I don't want to invalidate those claims. It is hard to be the brunt of people's frustration. Like I didn't do it, right? So like
there are people who have raised millions in the protests. Like we chose not to participate in the nonprofit, like that sort of race around money, because we wanted to see could we make an impact without raising a lot of money.
And even Black Lives Matter affiliate Sean King and his nonprofit organization called Grassroots Law Project with civil rights lawyer Lee Merritt is also under the guise of the Democratic fundraiser Act Blue whenever someone wants to donate to their non-transparent cause. Which should make you ask some questions, like, millions upon millions of dollars have been donated by the public to these orgs, all due to their relatable general plans and public pledges or promises. But where exactly does all of this donated money go after?
You agree with that?
After it's accepted by Act Blue on behalf of these organizations? Why are these organizations not so transparent when it comes to the usage of the funds provided to them? Just a day or so after the video of George Floyd's murder went viral everywhere, you then began to see the hashtag Black Lives Matter trending on every social media site, from your favorite celebrities to Democratic politicians to government officials to even famously known large corporations were all using the hashtag. Was this all done in order to bring attention towards the issue of police brutality and the unfair treatment of the indigenous Nijis of Turtle Island? Or was this all done to bring attention to these large corporations, politicians, government officials?
We will not be silent. And so I won't be silent when I'm trying to fight for justice. I'm not going to be silent. I don't care how many channels it is out there, because I'm going to catch you in something and y'all going to try to, I already know. So who the rest of that money was for? Because like I said, my address was 28 Fair Court in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. And the people I bought it off, they from Dallas, Texas. So who was the rest of the money for? Yeah, y'all was trying to hit me? Yeah, I'm supposed to be here. $28, 3,500 square feet. And I'm in 2023, I'm the one standing behind a camera talking about the rain and the rainbow. So when I see paragraph 23 about rainwater, I knew what it was. I knew what it was. I knew when y'all was coming, took the pictures. When y'all was coming, when y'all switched the lawyers up, when you switched the judge up, everything.
And your favorite celebrities. A distraction is defined as a diversion that prevents someone from getting their full attention to something. But another essential definition of the word distraction is an extreme agitation of the mind or emotions, a mental distress. This is why the American public is easily manipulated and influenced by the compelling events that they see on television and all throughout popular social media sites, emotionally dividing the mindsets of the public under a false sense of racial equality.
We all saw what happened last week. We can't let that happen. Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying,
what the fuck is you talking? Shut the fuck up. Got blonde hair right here. Now ain't shit orange.
There's a great thing that's happening for our country. There's a great day for him. It's a great day for everybody. This is a great day for everybody. This is a great, great day in terms of equality.
I will challenge Trump and ask him to show me where exactly equality exists in today's society of America. And it's not just Trump or the Republicans that will play the let's just brush things off and get along fine and act as if nothing happened type of people. The Democrats have historically acted in this manner as well. Like Joe Biden.
And by the way, you know, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping.
Look, so I learned about roaches. What roaches? That you smoke, or is you talking about these kids because you wear your skin look and they skin?
Jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And
that's why I call him Creepy Joe.
Tell you what.
Joe Biden, who is vice president to Barack Obama, don't forget, blatantly telling our people that they are not black if they vote for Trump over him.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm in trouble.
Look who he
You
with.
gotta come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I
will.
It's a long way into.
On Breakfast Club, they be doing Donkey of the Day and all of that shit. They ain't put rainwater. Nobody from Texas. Y'all ain't put nobody from Texas down on, on there. Nobody in Dallas from 03. Y'all ain't put nobody on a donkey's ass. Fuck the Breakfast Club and fuck this nigga right here.
Till November, we got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
But wait a minute. Wait a minute. So anybody can determine if someone is black or not? Can we say that a person isn't white if they voted for Barack Obama? This exposes that the term black has a totally different meaning than what most may be aware of. For starters, the term black was historically used in conjunction with words that carry a negative connotation, like the term blacklisted, for example, which means blackballed, and blackballed meaning blackmailed. And it works the same way as an officer on his radio sounding off the description of a black male being a suspect in question, or someone they are instructed to lawfully murder, according to what we see nowadays.
So a woman on this internet called talking about she my fucking shit. I don't know this bitch. Call the police where I live and had them come in a gated community. If I was there, they could have shot me, bitch. That's why I call you a bitch, and I'm gonna keep calling you a bitch. And that's all you're gonna be to me is a bitch. Talking about some, I better hope that the indigenous Americans, I don't know fucking indigenous American had to fucking accept me into nothing. I was born this way. I didn't pick my family. The kids, they don't pick the family. They don't ask to be brought into the world. They just brought into the world. There's two people laid down and fucked.
The term black was famously used by prejudiced people as a derogatory labeling or a racial slur. So, how did our people become defenseless and then later refer to each other as this same label? Should you call yourself black when you can look at your arms right now and see that your skin complexion is actually different shades of the color brown? And before you share your excuse as to the reason why you call yourself black, focus on where that term arose from. Our people have never referred to each other as black in a historical sense. And why is that so important? Because of the spells of the English language. Meaning that the words you speak will directly impact or determine your reality by way of affirmation. And that will work both ways for an individual, meaning that they can speak good or bad things into their existence. Very similar to how karma works. So by speaking the spells of the English language, you must be
the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence, viewed as deciding their fate in future existences.
Be very careful not to inadvertently speak death or any forms of negativity over your life. For example, the etymology of the word black means colorless or the absence of color, which can be logically understood by you just simply cutting all of the lights out. Then you would only see darkness, which affiliates the word black with direct synonyms like missing, lacking, unavailable, absent, and non-existent. Now, this is very important to note because this means that by you chanting Black Lives Matter, for example, you are inadvertently denouncing your existence subconsciously, as if you're chanting No Lives Matter. Or when you say Black people, You're not referring to the skin color of someone who is actually the color brown. You're...
Who is this right here? With a Black Lives Matter joint on. Right here in the middle. Y'all don't know who this is? He's a rapper now. Right here in the middle.
Inadvertently referencing non-existing people. And it gets a lot deeper on the topic of racial inequality. Because if you are legally claiming or self-identifying as being Black, then just ask yourself, what rights or privileges exist right now that were granted or agreed upon for any person or citizen that identifies as being Black? Contrary to most popular beliefs and ideologies, the term Black has no nationality whatsoever, nor does it really represent a group of people from a particular landmass or state or country. Because if that were the case, then we would all be immigrants from an island called Black Land that carried many tribes of people that called themselves Blacks. And that's just not realistic, nor is it even truthful for that matter. So with all of that being said, we can easily determine where the root of the problem resides when it comes to racial inequality. And it starts with us truly identifying ourselves as who we really are, and cease with allowing strangers to label us as if we're their chattel or property, when we are actually their landlords.
Yeah, we are actually their landlords. And you got Black people that'll help and assist to get other people that look like them evicted. So I know my mom was a single parent. So all these single parents that lose a son, that shit bothers me. Or a daughter. So I don't play about my kids. Because they thought I abandoned them because I went to jail 95 months. So coded, yeah. Something is slated to happen to me or to someone else on 95 or 301. On the way to Maryland, but it's a third one, the bridge. Well, we got all of that blocked off. And if you try to come and try to make any signals and everything to hurt my daughter, I'm telling you, if anything else happens to any one of my daughter, I'm telling you, set it off from this.
Let's go over a more recent Easter egg clipped from my latest video called History Repeats Itself, Only If You Forget It. At about right here. At this mark of the video, the viewer's vision is focused on an image that I will consider an Easter egg, because this image carries a huge message that I want to point out just in case you missed it. Before I forced my hand and used my resources to put pressure on the supporting writers of the transatlantic slave trade story, which made them change their narrative from stating that there were 12.5 million enslaved Africans that were captured and forcefully migrated to the Americas to now read as 92,000 enslaved Africans as being the total number estimated between 1619 to 1875. I also shared detailed information concerning how it will be impossible to travel across the Atlantic Ocean in that fashion, even if the technology was as advanced as it is today back then, simply due to the rotation of the ocean's current, which nullifies all stories concerning how so-called slave ships traveled to and from. I mentioned all of this again here. Now, let's take things a step further. As you may know, this type of travel was extremely perilous during the time periods prior to any advanced technologies, allowing for more pernicious routes to be taken. Merchants or sailors traveling across the Atlantic using sailboats had no choice but to take specific routes based on the Volta do Mar Largo, which is a Portuguese phrase meaning turn of the wide sea. This Volta do Mar Largo phrase refers to the oceanic rotation that signifies the ocean's currents, which is why we are taught that the sea is divided into 5 oceans. These 5 oceans are also called ocean gyres, in which each of these gyres represents a different ocean current rotation. Listen closely. According to the National Geographic, the North...
Why you think he got a 24/7 channel? Because he put his, what he said, he put his own money to it. And we got that when I put up no weapon formed against me shall prosper. He says that, and Motu Imam sings that. And we got a 24/7. Same thing. Because someone tried to strike that down. That same African that want to be African in California, same thing. I seen it before, so I'd see y'all coming.
Atlantic gyre begins with the northward flow of the Gulf Stream along the east coast of the United States. The Gulf Stream is the western boundary current of the gyre. The gyre then becomes the North Atlantic current, which flows across the North Atlantic to Europe. Still flowing in a circular pattern, the current flows south as far as northwestern coast of Africa, where it is known as the Canary Current, the gyre's eastern boundary current. The gyre is completed as the North Atlantic equatorial current crosses the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean Sea. This entire circle and the water within it is the North Atlantic gyre. End quote. As I've stated numerous times before, this means that only the winds and the currents of the ocean could determine how a boat or a ship was able to travel across the Atlantic, revealing the true reason why explorers initially sailed to South America instead of North America first. Also, the winds and the climate made trading and traveling across the ocean very time-consuming, resulting in slowly paced travels that will require several weeks and even months to reach a single destination, let alone a round trip, all while hoping that the captain sailor has the ability to stay on course. And by the way, This also exposes that these ships were not able to literally travel straight across from one continent to another, due merely to the ocean's current, which can be compared to a game of double dutch, since inexperienced and even senior sailors had to jump in these gyres at the right times or they would lose. They were also limited to just having a compass for direction.
What did he say? He had to jump in the gyres, these ships. And I keep telling y'all, the ship, yeah, keep calling the boy captain and everything. That shit fucking sunk. Titanic, all that.
And the use of their hands to tell time, or rather, how much daylight was left, by aligning their fingers with the horizon. All of this sounds difficult, doesn't it? According to the Royal Museums of Greenwich, life at sea during the age of sail was filled with hardship. Sailors had to accept cramped conditions, disease, poor food and pay, and bad weather. So, if the sailors had to endure famine for weeks and even months, no pay and no work, sicknesses and diseases, treacherous weather climates, and even cramped living conditions, then how would anyone be able to control, feed, and successfully keep alive hundreds to thousands of so-called slaves that were allegedly captured from Africa and packed like sardines below the deck of their sailboats? Many people died for attempting this voyage, making it extremely difficult to even keep the same crew for more than one seafaring trip across the Atlantic. So in hopes of immediately providing a safer passage by learning the hard way, capacity.
The Atlantic is the turbulent waters. That's the East Coast. The Pacific is the peaceful waters. You gotta go, yeah, y'all go over there where the peaceful waters. Cause over here, yeah, it's rough over here.
These stipulations were forced on the sizes of cargo and the passengers aboard. But these treacherous conditions continued to plague the foreigners for centuries, making it unrealistic to transport millions of so-called slaves from one continent to another between the early 1600s to the late 1800s across the Atlantic. This is why you would not find any historical evidence nor colonial documentation of a transatlantic slave trade during this time period. That task would be simply impossible for anyone to accomplish, especially the way that we were taught how the story goes. Also, I previously shared even more information along with primary sources of documentation exposing just how much
that's called receipts.
The transatlantic slave trade story is completely fictional, but designed as a weapon known as fear-mongering, which is used against particular groups of people's subconsciousness psychologically. And this image says a lot. What can you see in this picture? Now, obviously, we see so-called slaves chained to their wooden bunkers. And by the setting of this image, we can tell that they are locked up under the bottom portion of the boat. We also see two figures walking down the steps leading to this portion of the boat. What's important to note here is that these two figures are fully clothed as if they are not enslaved or under any sort of threat to be enslaved. Now, I want you to take a look at the guy at the top. Notice that he's wearing white gloves. What rings a bell here when you think about someone wearing white gloves? You can recall seeing ushers at a church wearing white gloves, in which they usually either usher you to an available seat or ushering the offering plate around the church when it's time to donate. You may even recall seeing Michael Jackson or that Queen Elizabeth also wears white gloves, symbolizing a higher status, power, and protection, as well as some form of nobility. And
so when I tell you again, I salute, I don't just salute anybody. I salute them for a reason. Salutation, or if they lost somebody. Y'all keep saluting somebody on here, and that's a mockery to me.
Clearly, we can see that both figures carry the same skin complexion as those in chains. Are these figures representing assistant managerial roles of enslavement? Or are they representing the masterminds behind slavery in general? Now keep in mind that we do not see any figurative representation of a pale-faced individual throughout this entire depiction. So the artist is clearly sending across the message that indicates that it was people of color that enslaved their very own people. You will find that many authors of history are racially biased when it comes to the truth about any story they choose to publish. Even the earlier years during the implementation of the Patent Office and its rules, you will find that many great ideas and brilliant creations derived from the indigenous people here in America, but the financial gain, or rather the credit, is lawfully given to someone else. So would it be hard to imagine that the credit of being a so-called slave master was purposely written in history to make it seem unrealistic to fit a so-called black man? Maybe the authors of history thought that they should tell you what happened to make themselves look like emperors or people that are held in higher regard than any other, just so you will believe that your people were always enslaved.
Well, I tell you, as soon as I put that joint up, is somebody gonna tell the emperor he has no clothes? Yo, y'all interrupted that joint real quick. When I was getting ready to go in on Ratchet TV, y'all interrupted that joint real quick. As soon as I start showing, yeah, somebody was listening. Yeah, the Serpentine Fire. It was in September. He was supposed to settle. And I'm telling him, yeah, I can't talk about the settlement agreement. You can't talk about the settlement agreement. So I know what I'm talking about. So they try to get me down here on the internet to talk about the settlement agreement on the house. 2023. Just all of a sudden just call me on July the 2nd. Oh, you need to look at this. Hey, get the hell out of here.
And if they fought back, they died. keeping you in fear of the invincible, when in reality, strangers don't want you to visibly witness their fear of you.
Produced by Dane Calloway and Tanisha Calloway. Watch this brand new documentary, Mother Rosa, right now at DaneMakeYouThink.com.
Sure, the rest of y'all say